Hello and welcome to Cultivated World, the channel that brings you the good stuff from the world of watches. Today we have the Pepsi Challenge. We're comparing the Rolex GMT with the Tudor GMT. We'll be looking at the similarities and differences and what makes them so desirable, and ultimately, is the Tudor a good alternative? Both of these titans were launched at Basel World in 2018 and were definitely the talk of the show. The new steel Rolex GMT with the red and blue bezel was hugely anticipated since the last incarnation was discontinued in 2007. The Tudor GMT, on the other hand, is based on the black Bailey line but is the first GMT model for Tudor. Let's commence proceedings by starting with the dials. The Rolex has a black glossy dial which looks very deep and draws you in. This contrasts brilliantly with the large white gold hour markers which are filled with chromolite luminescence. The Tudor's dial is more of a matte finish, which has a fine texture not unlike sandpaper. The black is not as deep as on the Rolex, so you can actually see the dial rather than looking into what looks like space. The markers are much smaller than those on the Rolex and do not have the same luster and shine. From our research, it's not very clear what the markers and hands are made from, and I believe if they were made from white gold like they are on the Rolex, Tudor would have made this very clear. This leads me to believe that they are probably made from steel, and perhaps with some rhodium plating. If anybody has any information as to whether they are white gold or not, please do let us know in the comment section below. Rolex opts to use the signature Mercedes style hour hand and a lollipop seconds hand, whereas the Tudor uses the snowflake hands. This is actually one part of the Tudor which stems from its heritage, as the snowflake hands were first used on watches made for the French Navy in the 1950s. Both watches feature a date wheel at 3 o'clock, which has been a bit of contention for the Tudor. It has been well documented that some Tudor GMTs have seen the date wheel become stuck between two dates. The Tudor GMT we have here today is about a year old and has never missed a beat, and if any issues were to develop, it would be covered by Tudor's international warranty. However, with this fully functioning example, it seems to me that the manufacturing issue has already been quietly resolved by Tudor. It's not like Rolex got everything right first time either, and we'll be discussing this point later on in the video. Over the top of the date on the Rolex sits the signature Cyclops Lens, magnifying the date by 2.5 times. The date is much clearer to read than on the Tudor, but I know some of you wish the Rolex didn't have this feature. Although both watches are super legible, the Cyclops Lens, along with the greater amount of text on the Rolex, does make it look much more congested and busier than the Tudor. The Tudor GMT is offered with a choice of strap and bracelet options, each with their own character and style. This particular Tudor GMT is on the fabric strap, which is so underrated. It was produced in France on vintage looms and is a real quality item. However, the fairest comparison should be made with the steel bracelet. The Tudor's bracelet is brushed with polished sides and features the controversial faux rivets. Somehow, I could never imagine Rolex doing something like that. Conversely, the Rolex keeps it simple and offers only one option, the Jubilee Bracelet. And what a bracelet it is! This distinctly differentiates the Rolex from the Tudor and offers a more sophisticated vibe. Also featured on the Datejust, the Rolex reintroduced the Jubilee bracelet on a professional model with the GMT. The 5-link configuration is more supple, and although Tudor's bracelet is comfortable, the Jubilee bracelet takes it to another level. This is without mentioning the Easylink function on the Rolex, which offers 5mm of on-the-go adjustment without the use of any tools. The Rolex is made from 904L steel, which offers improved corrosion resistance compared with the 316L steel used by the Tudor. 904L steel is more difficult to produce watches from, but does have the added bonus of a more brilliant shine. Coming in at 41mm in diameter and approximately 15mm thick, the Tudor is on the larger side. On my 17cm or 6 3/4 inch wrist, the Tudor sits comfortably, but I would struggle to wear this every day. The fabric strap actually makes it more comfortable than the bracelet, reducing some of the mass, but can make it feel a little bit top heavy. The Rolex comes in at 40mm in diameter and approximately 14.5mm thick, which makes a world of difference. For me, this more refined profile makes a more viable daily wear. Its smaller size allows it to disappear on the wrist without you being conscious of it all the time. Both GMTs offer an in-house movement with 70 hours of power reserve. Both are cost certified, meaning they must maintain accuracy within -4 to +6 seconds per day. However, in true Rolex fashion, Rolex takes this one step further with their additional standard, called Superlative Chronometer. Rolex adds stricter specifications on top of what's required for cost certification to maintain accuracy within only -2 seconds to +2 seconds per day. The Rolex in this instance has the Tudor beat. Now for the main event, the bezel. The Tudor's bezel is made from anodized aluminium, much like Rolex used to use before switching to Cerachrome. The blue is dark and can sometimes look black in low light, and the red is rich and reflects the light beautifully. Whatever you say about the Tudor GMT, I think they got the colours right straight out of the block. The red and blue Cerachrome bezel on the Rolex GMT did not get off to the best start. With all new technologies, it can take some time to hone and perfect. We discussed the creation of the Pepsi bezel in a previous video, which is linked in the description below. The colours on the first Cerachrome bezels were not very convincing, with the blue looking purple and the red looking a bit pink. Just like Tudor's date wheel, Rolex has quietly made improvements to the bezel. As you can see on this 2020 GMT, the colours are much more assertive. The blue is definitely now blue and the red is definitely now red. But put it next to the Tudor GMT and there's clearly still room for improvement. The ceramic bezel of the Rolex will be impervious to scratches and fading, so it will look the same now as it will in years to come. The Tudor's anodized aluminium bezel, on the other hand, is not so resilient. It will scratch and it will fade over time. Much like those that worry about scratching their polished center links, there will be many that see this as a disadvantage. But I don't think so. And much like a proper leather jacket or a pair of Japanese selvage denim jeans, the more you wear the watch, the better it will become. It will age beautifully and will develop a patina over time. It will be a watch created with your individual mark through your journey in life. You'll be able to look at the Tudor and think, if that watch could talk, I bet that it has some amazing stories to tell. What do you think of these two Pepsi GMT watches? With the big difference in price, can you see why people would choose the Tudor? Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.
Take the Pepsi challenge. Let your taste decide. Right, guys? Right!
If you like watches as much as we do and want to see more watch content like this, please like and subscribe and remember to hit that bell icon.